What in the 20s is going
in the
on?
20s?
Think about
The 20s, baby.
Plenty. What in the 20s is
I am
going
here for my 20s, baby.
This is the 20s.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Zamam Kize, and this is What's in the 20s, a podcast where you listen to me grow through its baby. On this episode, we're going to be speaking. I let that run off a little too quickly, but yeah, we're going to be speaking about how to become a villager. This is because you know how people always say, like, you know, in order to have a village, you need to be a villager and all those things. And I think it's important to speak about it because I think we are losing the plot a bit, you know, as a society and stuff. I think we're in an effort to correct something, which was to learn how to be the main characters in our own lives and just pour into ourselves and fill up our own cup so we can get from our overflow and all of that. I think we may have like overcorrected into where we have become a lot more self-absorbed. Dare I say, maybe narcissists in our efforts, you know, very individualized in the way that we act and perform in society and stuff. I know that for a very long time in my life, I'm not say for a very long time, but there was a period in my life where I did not want to be your emergency contact. I was kind of like, please do not make me the friend that is responsible for you if anything happens, because I don't always answer my phone, and it's not intentional. Sometimes I'm just really caught up or whatever that's going on, and you know, my phone is usually always on do not disturb. And I'm sorry, I apologize, but it's because I get so invested in everything else that I'm doing that I can't afford to be distracted, because once I'm distracted, it takes me it's so much harder for me to come back and be absorbed in what I'm doing, you know? It takes a lot of effort for me to get myself going. You know, when they say the hardest part is starting, that's genuinely how I feel about myself. Like, it's so hard to start writing a book. It's so hard to wake up and start going to gym. It's so hard, like, for me to like make that decision and actively just go do it and start. That's always what takes the most effort. So now if I start and I get distracted, it pulls me away completely, and it feels like I have to now start again, you know, to get back to the momentum I was performing at. And so that's why my phone usually is always on do not disturb, because I can't, even right now it's on do not disturb, but it's because I need to focus on recording, you know. But so because of that reason, like, I know that a lot of my friends or people would feel really like disappointed that they're trying to reach out to me and they can't, you know. Also, I sleep really early. By 8 o'clock I'm in bed and stuff like that. So if you're gonna call me or text me and stuff afterwards, I don't see it until the next day, which can make you feel very frustrated, right? I know it makes my friends feel frustrated at times, at least in the beginning. That's how it felt. Like, I'm just unavailable, unreachable, and this and that, you know, but not in like, not in a way that I'm just not there, you know, because I do feel like I make an effort to be there, to show up and stuff like that, but it just won't always be at the time where you might need me or want me to. And I think very often, or for a long time, I kind of just went on believing that that's fine, that's normal. Like, I'm putting myself first, I'm putting my needs first, I'm putting what's best for me first, because it's inconvenient for me to now have to go show up, you know, for something else, and then kind of let myself down, you know, or put my own needs and stuff in the background, you know, so that I can show up for other people. And although I get the sentiments so much, because I feel like I have really done a good job at I guess living a life that feels like is for me. I think I've done a really good job at building a life for myself that feels like my dreams, my passions, my goals, and all of that are in the forefront, are a priority, and all the rest. But I think in a lot of ways, I could do better in terms of becoming a villager. I could do better in terms of being the friend my friends can call whenever, you know. I could do better in terms of being the friend or the family member, because I also know that with family, I can be so out of it, you know. And that's, you know, purely because like geographically, we're not in the same place. So I kind of just feel like I don't need to put that much effort because I'm not going to, you know, and that's not fair. That's not right. They're my family. They're my blood. But because they're all the way in Durban and I'm in Joburg and stuff, I feel like I can become lazy and complacent in terms of checking in, being there, showing up, you know, and all of those kinds of things. And I'm upset with myself for it. I really am, because that is something I feel like the people in my life are so good to me. They're so generous and supportive and kind and all of those things, and I never take it for granted and stuff. But I think, we can be so involved in our own space. Like, I'm a homebody and all of that. We can be so involved in ourselves and so like absorbed in our world, that anything out of it feels like, as I said earlier, an inconvenience. It feels like you're distracting me. It feels like you're pulling me away from what I'm doing. It feels like you're taking away from my morning routines, from my habits, from my this and that, from the life the life I'm trying to build for myself, which is so, I think in a sense, it makes us even more, as like when I say we're living in an individualized society, we're constantly just thinking about me, what I need, what I want, what would work for me, what doesn't, until we stop showing up, for certain things like even birthdays and stuff like that, because it's getting in the way of this and that or whatever, we stop making our friends or people in our lives feel important, people in our lives feel cared for, because it just feels, you see things nowadays of like bridesmaids complaining about the fact that they don't want to feel like a servant, they don't want to feel like they have to plan everything, rather just pay an events coordinator and all that kind of stuff to do that. Like, why is it my job to do that? Like, I'd rather just be a guest and all of that. And that's what I'm saying. It's like people just become so, we're going to the extreme. So we're losing the plot with everything. Like, if your friend maybe needs help with this, why is it my job to help you with this and stuff like that? If somebody is maybe they don't have the knowledge or the emotional intelligence that you have to be able to grasp or whatever something, and to us, we would see that as like a turn off or whatever, rather than thinking, just be like, I have it. Why can't I teach? Why can't I help this person? Instead, we kind of get pulled back by the fact that someone doesn't have it. And we, it's kind of self-righteous. We think we're better than them and stuff like that. Like, you're actually not serving me. Why would I want to date you? Why would I want to have you as a friend? Why would I want to associate with you and stuff like that? And we just don't give people enough room to grow and develop. And we want people to come perfect every time, or to at least meet us always, right? That's always what we say. We want the people in our lives to meet us where we are. But I think we're losing some of that community in terms of learning how to raise each other to be where we want to be, learning how to, and we feel like it's not our responsibility. It's not my responsibility to teach you how to do this. It's not my responsibility. Like, just a simple Google search or this and that. And we've become a lot more cold and harsh and just closed off to people, which is making it so difficult to build community. We don't want to do anything that doesn't benefit us, that doesn't make us feel like we're at peace and all of those kind of stuff. And I think the issue with moving like this for too long is that we grow the loneliness in our lives, because we keep being so closed off, because we don't answer the calls, because we don't show up, because, if somebody needs help, we're not willing to go stand in the gap and fill up what we can and stuff like that. We feel more and more lonely because it's just us, we're just growing and living this life and all of that kind of stuff, just as me, myself, and I. And it can be really sad because also, like, even for example, if you're trying to date someone, whatever, if they're not, if you feel like she's just not doing this or they are, whatever, it's just, we don't really even we don't even explain to somebody, make the time to explain to someone why you might be, I guess, not impressed with certain things that they do or say or whatever. We just kind of feel like, I'm just going to remove myself from the situation and walk away, And I think this is the thing I'm going back to about teaching. We're missing a lot of that thing in community where, where we help each other out. They say this thing about children, in a lot of African communities and stuff like that, everybody kind of raises the child in the sense of like, if you can see a child like, making a noise or whatever it is, whether it's in a restaurant, in a supermarket and stuff like that, even if it's not your child, you'll just go up to them and just be like, hey, don't do that. Or, don't make a big thing or whatever it is, just try to quiz the child type of situation. Whereas in a lot of Western community, we kind of feel like that's not my responsibility, that's not my my child, I'm not going to get involved. I'd rather go tell the manager or go tell authorities and stuff like that and report you or blame the parents and things like that. But we don't feel the responsibility to help the parent who maybe needs help disciplining the child or how all of that kind of stuff. And I think that's what I mean when I'm like, we need to come as a community and help each other out. But we feel like it's everybody's own responsibility to kind of figure out the emotional progress and growth and spiritual progress and growth and all the rest and stuff like that. I think that it makes us feel more purposeless when we are so focused on ourselves. I think that a lot of the sadness that we feel when we're like, what is my purpose? What am I actually doing? Why am I here? I don't, when you feel like you're on autopilot, when you feel like there's just, you know what I'm saying? I think it's because we're so focused and we've put not the microphone. Man, you know what I'm trying to say? The microscope on ourselves, and when we're able to view life a bit more outwards, I think that's what gives us purpose. When we feel like we're able to help a friend out, we feel purpose to do that, able to help our family out, maybe financially. We feel purpose to work as hard as we do or whatever it is. Maybe to be there for partnership, for this and that, like just for a cause, even for a stranger, for people who are in need and all of that. That gives you purpose. When you shine the light a little bit off yourself, and try to think of how can I share all that's within me outwards, that will give you drive, that will give you more reason, to do something. It'll be a bigger why than just because I want to, than just because your emotions and your whatever change, to say because I want to will only last you so long, and stuff like that. So I feel like when your why becomes a little bit outwardly and stuff like that, for the good of others, to inspire others, to make an impact, to do whatever, you know what I'm saying? I think in that sense, you start to have more purpose in your life, rather than constantly feeling like there's just no meaning to the things that you're doing. I think that's going to help you a lot, and all of that. I think that we are missing a lot of key values when we continue being selfish, key values such as patience. I think that, if you can see that someone is maybe lacking in a certain area, falling short in another area and whatever that, instead of just dismissing them and making them feel like actually they're not worth your time or whatever it is, have the patience to watch them evolve and grow and change and all of that. Have the patience to see them, have a willingness to want to learn from you and all of that kind of stuff. Have the patience. Like, I think we lose that because we're just like, I'm actually not interested. I don't need to deal with this and all of that. We like a key characteristic such as forgiveness. Because we don't have the patience, we don't feel like we need to forgive certain people for being a human being, because we just kind of feel like this is not my problem, not my this and that. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I'm walking out, And I think forgiveness is such an important attribute to life. Honestly, we need to be able to forgive ourselves. We need to be able to forgive other people. We need to forgive our elders, and I get it because we trusted them. We trusted them to know better. We trusted them to show up in a way that, makes us feel safe and secure and stuff. But we need to be able to have that thing inside of us, that characteristic inside of us that allows us to forgive when we feel disappointed, when we feel let down, when we feel like someone dropped the ball on us. We need to be able to forgive in work environments and stuff like that. And I feel like when we are too quick to anger, too quick to dismissal, too quick to just kind of making somebody feel unimportant and invalidated, we lose that moment for that. We lose consideration when we choose to be, I guess, individualized, because we're constantly thinking me. I can't even fathom. I don't have the space to think about you and what you need and all of that. And that's an issue. That's a problem, We need to be able to consider, you know what a beautiful thing it is, to love someone so much, you're willing to consider them above you. You're willing to consider what they may need and stuff because you know that you'll be able to sort yourself out. But like, let me just share. Let me just, consider their time, consider their efforts, consider what they have put into this, the investments and stuff. What a beautiful thing to be considered. I love being considered. When someone's like, I saw this poster, I thought you would be interested in it and stuff like that. I saw this campaign, whatever. I saw this concert. I saw this whatever. I saw this fruit and it made me think of you. I saw this song and it made me I just thought I should add it onto the playlist because I know how much you love it and stuff like that. Like, you feel considered into something, which makes you feel important. I feel like when we are too selfish, we don't consider people. And then we give gifts that we would like and not considering what they would like and stuff. But in our minds, it's like, but I would love if somebody gave me this, but it's not about you. And then we criticize people for being ungrateful or this or that, but it's just that they don't feel seen, I think that we lose the opportunity to have empathy. Empathy is so important because it helps us, it makes us more powerful when we're empathetic. It makes us connect with people to see where they're coming from. It extends compassion, which is also an important characteristic we need to have. Like, for people, if they're going through a tough time and stuff, you wouldn't like it if you were going through a difficult time and people didn't show you empathy and compassion. You would be so distraught. I am so grateful. I remember when I was in my 4th year of university, I had to take an academic leave of absence. And literally as I wrote out that email asking for it, I'm like, please, this is on compassionate grounds. I am begging you. I need a minute. And they gave it to me. And I was so grateful that like I was met with that love and consideration and empathy, to be like, okay, Zama's going through something. Let's give her some time away, but we're going to help her get back. And I still was able to, complete my degree because I was met with such loving hands, at the time. I think also when we are so selfish and stuff, we lose our ability to commit, we leave friendships, we leave romantic relationships and stuff. We, even separate from our family members and stuff because even our work and our dreams and our passions and stuff, when it starts feeling like it's not serving us or when it starts feeling like it's becoming a little too difficult for us, we feel like we need to just drop it and let it go. And please understand also, when I'm talking about this, I'm not talking about being in a position where it's complete self-abandonment and neglect. I'm not speaking about things in the extreme, but I'm speaking about just feeling inconvenienced and you kind of just feel like, you know what? I don't need to deal with this. I don't want this. And we don't commit to the project. We don't commit to see things through and stuff. We kind of just let it go because, again, it's me. We are not villagers anymore. And it's really difficult being a villager in a society that we live in today because we're constantly promoting how we should prioritize ourselves. And again, as much as I understand it, I think that's what's making us more lonely and frustrated in the world. And so, ways that we can become a villager, I would start by saying, learn how to be a teacher, learn how to offer advice, learn how to offer a teaching hand, and not that you sound more powerful, not in a way that makes you sound more important, more, I guess, self-righteous and all of that, have a bit of a superiority complex, but in a way that makes you feel like we are equals and we both deserve to have this knowledge, and so I'd love to share this with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's so nice when my friends teach me something, and it could be at the very basic level, it could be something about learning how to forgive. When they teach me how to do that, even in moments where I really don't want to, when they teach me how to move forward from something difficult and stuff, when they teach me how to have maturity in situations, how to look at something from a different angle, in a different light and stuff, I think that's so much more nurturing than constantly thinking you are right and all of that kind of stuff. I think learn how to be a teacher when you're meeting somebody and you feel like this isn't, the way that you want to hear something, say to them, actually, I think that was a bit of a mean comment or rude thing to say, but this is an alternative way to say something. This is an alternative way, that just sounds more considerate and stuff. I think if we're able to just do that, we stop this culture of gossiping first and foremost about people and all of that kind of stuff and just saying the worst things about people behind their backs and stuff because we won't confront them, right? We always think, you know what? That's just a strange person. Let's walk away. But that person could be willing to want to be better. They just need someone willing to take that chance on them. And you need to be teachable also. I beg. I think that we need to build capacity. We need to build capacity for what people are going through. Sometimes we feel like I've got so much going on in my own life. I actually can't, and stuff like that. We need to be able to have the range, that people, sometimes it feels like somebody's coming to you with a situation you can't relate to. You've never gone through it. You've never this and that, but it doesn't mean you don't know how to be a helping hand. You don't know how to show compassion and empathy and stuff just because you haven't gone through it. We need to have that capacity to welcome when our friends are in distress, when our colleagues or whatever, family members and stuff like that. We need to be able to feel like it is safe enough for them to come to us. We've created an environment that allows them to talk to us about things, to share what's going on in their lives and stuff. We need to be able to make time. I know it always feels like there's so much going on in our lives. It's this after the next, after the next, after the next and stuff like that. We need to build the stamina to make time. And it doesn't always have to be a full afternoon, a full evening and stuff, whether it's an hour, whether it's 15 minutes on a phone call or whatever, even 8 minutes, whether it's just passing by quickly after work and stuff like that. Just, just simple pleasures, simple things like that just shows somebody that you were on their mind or whatever it is. And it's not even a thing of I'm only coming to speak to you or check on you and stuff because a crisis has happened. It needs to be in the mundane, in the everyday, just because it's a Tuesday, you were on my mind. What's going on? How are you? Just wanted to chat about this and stuff. I think we're constantly only reaching out when we are in dire need of something, when we need a favor, when we're going through something and stuff like that. We need to get into the habit of just, like, what's up with you? Like, and I think we need to become more reliable. So remember earlier I said I would hate if somebody made me their emergency contact. I need to learn how I can be someone that my friends can count on. How do you become more reliable? You stick to your word. If you're invited to some place and you said you're going to go. Show up. If you said you were going to do this thing, do that thing. If you said you're going to be this type of person for this person, be that type of, person for that person. I think make your identity line up with the words you're saying, like your actions need to line up and stuff. That's what makes you a more reliable person, by being honest, being transparent, being sincere, being genuine. Those are things that make you more reliable and stuff like that. And I think the benefits always outweigh, like having that emotional, mental kind of and spiritual growth, with yourself, with where you're going. Like, I think that's the thing. I don't think people realize how much pouring into others also inadvertently, if I'm using that word right, pours back into yourself, how much showing up for others and stuff also kind of gives you a sense of, growth and stuff like that. I think that there's a lot more that you can gain. You can gain a community, people who are there for you, people you can call, people who can show up, people who are rooting for you, championing you, supporting you, people who love you, to be loved and considered, all of that kind of stuff. I think when we are the villager, we receive the village back and stuff like that. And I think also it gives you a sense of purpose, as I said earlier. And lastly, I think that we have a lot more long-term relationships with people. I think we're always speaking about how we're having friendship breakups and this breakup and that breakup, and things are constantly ending. And it goes back to the points I made earlier about commitment. We are not committing to people anymore because we don't feel or see the need to be with them during the tough times, when things are getting a bit ruckus, when things are getting a bit tough and difficult and all of that kind of stuff. We need to develop the stamina and the endurance to be resilient enough to be able to forgive, have patience, compassion, empathy, all the things I mentioned earlier, if we want to have a long-term relationship with somebody, because we are always going to be changing. You are changing, and you want people to stick with you through it. You want people to choose you through it and consider you through it and love you through it. And yeah, that's what I really wanted to speak about today, is that I've just been learning about the importance of becoming a villager, because I think we are always complaining about wanting a community and stuff like that. But I think it's important if we're able to give out what we want back, people who are there and show up for us. As always, I'm sending my love. Goodbye.
What in the 20s is going on?
In the 20s,
here?
the 20s, baby.
Plenty. What in the 20s is
I am
going
here for
on?
my 20s, baby.
This is the 20s.